Hi, welcome. I would like to talk about Psalm 91 again today. I want to walk through today the imagery in the middle that's about the enemies we face and how God protects us from them. As we do this, I want you to remember what I talked about last week. I talked about the difference between the promises in the Old Testament and their focus, especially the promises under the law, and the promises we have in the gospel. And three main things I want you to remember. First of all, in the Old Testament, under the law, most of the promises were conditional. People had to perform well enough before the promises became theirs. And in the New Testament, under the gospel, the promises we have are ours in Christ. And they don't depend upon our performance. They depend upon His performance. They depend on the fact that He's paid for our sins and that we are now a member of God's family, members of God's family. And so the promises we live in, that we live by, those are promises that are unconditionally ours. Secondly, is that the Old Testament promises tended to be focused on the current circumstances rather than the future as much. And so the New Testament, very much the focus is on the future, and particularly on the eternal nature of the promises we've been given. No matter what happens to us in this life, we know where we're headed, and that changes everything. And the third difference is that in the Old Testament, the promises tended to be focused on outward circumstances, and there's more of a focus in the New Testament on our inward state, on our hearts, and on the fact that what we have within us cannot be taken away. And so that's very much what things are about. Keep all that in mind as we look at this imagery, and as you decide how it applies in your own life. That will, I think, bring some clarity. What I'd really like to do, though, is just to focus on this imagery. It's very beautiful. I've had kind of a stressful week. I don't know about you. You may have had a great week. You may have had a stressful one. But I need this today. So it says in verse 3, "It is He who delivers you from the snare of the trapper and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His pinions, and under His wings you may seek refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and bulwark. You'll not be afraid of the terror by night, or of the arrow that flies by day, of the pestilence that stalks in darkness, or of the destruction that lays waste at noon." There's several pairs in here, a series of pairs. So, first of all, notice the snare of the trapper and the deadly pestilence. The snare of the trapper, obviously this is somewhat figurative because people don't set snares for other people. What it was saying is, imagine being a bird or an animal caught in a trapper's snare. It says in your life there may be things that are like a snare for you, that are like a trap for you. You're walking along in your life and suddenly you're caught in a snare, you're caught in a trap, you're caught in something you didn't see coming. So the point here is the snare of the trapper is the kind of enemy, the kind of circumstance, the kind of difficulty that you didn't have. It was hidden, so you couldn't avoid it. And the pestilence, well, we even struggle with a pestilence, with a plague like COVID-19. But the point is, we even know how it spreads. In the Old Testament, they didn't even know how those things spread. It must have been very mysterious and quite frightening. All you could do was just hope that it wouldn't hit your family. So there's these two things, the trapper, which sets a snare that you can't see, the pestilence, which spreads in ways you can't detect. It's all about things you can't manage, things you can't control. And the point is, it says you don't have to be afraid of those things. Not of the terror by night, not of the arrow that flies by day, not of the pestilence that stalks in darkness, not of the destruction that lays waste at noon. Whether it's night or day, whether you're asleep, whether you're awake and you just can't stop it, whether it's human malice or whether it's blind natural disaster or whatever other enemy you face, it's not something you have to worry about. So the main picture here is about control, I think. I am a person who likes to very carefully manage the risks that I take in my life. I'm fairly cautious. I do a lot of work to control that I'm never in a place where I'm likely to be emotionally vulnerable or physically vulnerable or anything else. And it throws me when things get out of control and I can't guard myself appropriately. And I think a lot of people are like that. What this is saying is sometimes life isn't something you can guard against. Sometimes things happen in life that you can't do anything to stop. And yet you don't have to worry about the things you can't protect yourself from, or the things you can't see, or the dangers you can't avoid, because God has your back. God will be covering for you. God will protect you. God will be your shield. God's protection, by the way, never stops. Whether it's by night or by day, it says that the God who keeps Israel never slumbers or sleeps in Psalm 121. So that's the first piece. Goes on to say, 1,000 may fall at your right side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not approach you. You'll only look on with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. For you have made the Lord my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil will befall you, nor will any plague come near your tent. So there's a difference here between what happens with the thousands around you. What happens with you? The thousands around you it talks about as the wicked. They're those who don't know God. But you are different because you know God, or not so much that you're different, but what God is doing for you is different because He knows you and is protecting you. And what this says is you can't go by what everybody else around you is telling you because they don't have the same situation. They don't know God like you do. So if we look around us and hear all the stories, all the horror stories and all the stories of disaster and all the voices of warning around us, telling us how badly things can go, how horrible things are going to get, it can be very easy to find reasons to be discouraged or even to begin to panic. Panic is kind of contagious. Now, of course, we are supposed to take reasonable precautions. That's not what I'm talking about. But we don't have to buy into the anxiety and the fear and the panic and the selfishness and the different responses of the world to what's going on to us, because we are not in that situation. We're not facing the recompense of the wicked. We know that God has us in His hand. Even if something happens to us here, we're going to be with Him through eternity. There's no reason for us to see things as doom and gloom. It's different for us. So the key here is not to let the testimonies of unbelievers on either side, the testimonies of people around me, convince me that I can't trust God, because I can. And God will not allow that plague to come near my tent. He won't allow that trouble to come near me. In circumstances, maybe, but not ultimately, in terms of where we are eternally or who we are inwardly. Then it says, for God will give His angels charge concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will bear you up in their hands, that you do not strike your foot against a stone. You'll tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you'll trample down. Two things. First of all, I used to sort of be unsure how to take this part about He will give His angels charge concerning you, because it felt like an anticlimax to me. I felt like I wanted God to take care of me, and now He was just delegating it to His angels, like He was somehow trying to sidestep that job or something. But that's not, of course, the idea. The idea is that God cares so much for you as His child that He goes out of His way to appoint a portion of His created universe to give to the specific job of watching out for you. This is saying that God cares so much for you that He's said to part of His creation, your job is to take care of my child right there, and take care ahead of time before he even gets into trouble. Bear him up that he doesn't even strike his foot against a stone. He may tread upon a lion or a cobra, but you guard him so that he can trample them down. And then it says, comes back to God's action, I will deliver him, I will set him securely on high. So the fact that God has specifically assigned a portion of the universe to watch out for me, for you, that's rather remarkable. I like this picture of treading upon the lion and the cobra. I started thinking about the fact that in the days this was written, most people would have been wearing sandals or would have been barefoot, not army boots. If I'm wearing army boots, I feel like I can trample down everywhere. But if I'm in sandals, I'm careful where I put my feet, and it kind of scares me that I might accidentally step into a nest of vipers or into some danger that I haven't looked for. It reminded me when I was first starting to talk about this of a time when I was 4 years old. I lived in Sierra Leone in Africa, and they had in Sierra Leone these big black ants known as driver ants, and they stung when they bit, but they were also quite big. And one time I accidentally stepped into an anthill, and all these ants sort of swarmed out and started swarming all over my feet, and one of them I think stung me, bit me, and it panicked me because I was just 4 years old, and I just started screaming. I didn't move, which would have been the rational thing to do. I didn't run away. I just froze in place and started screaming. And my parents were a distance away yelling, move, get away, but I didn't. So finally my dad ran over, reached me, pulled me up, lifted me away from the anthill, and then, brushed all the ants off, and I was fine. But it occurred to me, what a great picture of God. I'm standing here, maybe I'm even screaming. I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to move. I feel too afraid to step in any direction. But God says, my angels will bear you up in their hands. And He says, I will lift you and deliver you and set you securely on high. That is the kind of God we have. And so we can not worry about those things. So I guess that's all I have to say. I hope this will be an encouragement to you, and have a great week. Next week we'll look at some other things involving this.